You're listening to the One Step Deeper podcast with your host, Jimmy Moore and Brittany Davis. OneStepDeeperPodcast.com.
We've been recording for like 2 hours thinking we had a wonderful podcast. No, just kidding. I was going like 5 minutes. You can see I'm in kind of a different place than normal. It's so hot in my house where the recording studio is. So I'm over here in the man cave where it tends to be a little bit cooler. And I've got a second air conditioner to get too hot. And Brittany's like, Jimmy, we're not recording. I'm like, So she saved the day today. She's become officially a very professional podcaster because Jimmy didn't even notice. And Jimmy's done since Fred Flintstone was his first listener.
And that was crazy because like you were asking about my day, like kind of how we usually start the show. And I was like, are we going to like pre-talk about what we're talking about? Like, what are we doing, Jimmy? And so you started in real good, like, oh, he doesn't realize. So we're not recording.
But we are now.
Hey guys, how are y'all today? I hope you guys are doing well. And Jimmy, I hope are you good?
I'm real good now. I got my water. Maybe I need a peach rain.
I think this has given us the perfect opportunity to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is your past doesn't dictate your future.
My past fucking up this podcast doesn't dictate how the podcasts are going to go.
Look at that segue that you just did accidentally.
I do a lot of accidentally on purpose things all the time. Yes.
We are giggling because this is going to be a tough topic. And I think both Jimmy and I have really gotten to a place where we have talked about this outside of the podcast where we're ready to step it up. We're ready to go one step deeper because it's coming.
In fact, we had a whole nother topic planned for today. And I remember because I told it to you the other day. And then last night when I was asleep, you texted me like way late for me. And so when I saw it, it's like, what are we talking about? I'm like, I just told you to. So then I sent it to you. And then this morning you called or I said, can we talk about today's show? Because I'm not feeling that you're really vibing with it. And you're like, oh, thank God. I was like, well, we can talk about what you're excited about.
Yes.
So what are we talking about in episode?
Today we are going to be talking about how our past does not dictate our future, but I'm going to throw Jimmy a curveball because the last we talked about this, I had a whole different mindset. And freaking life, man, hits you in just the few hours it's been since we've talked about this. And I would just like to add, your past does not dictate your future, or does it? Or does it? And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that depends on you.
Yeah.
I think it's like everything else we talk about on this show. And I want to introduce the show here in a second, but it's like everything else with this show. Everything comes down to your choice. You can decide that childhood trauma devastated you and wallow in the pity of that for the rest of your life. You can choose to rise up over that and realize that, okay, that doesn't define me. I'm going to acknowledge it happened in the past and what happened to me was horrible. And I know you and I have had kind of discussions about this philosophically of, well, that didn't make me the person I am. Oh, fuck that. Exactly. I agree with you, by the way. Okay. But I do think that if you don't rise above it and make something of it, your future can't go anywhere. You will stay stymied for the rest of your life. And so I am excited to get into this topic, but we do need to introduce the show. Guys, this is the One Step Deeper podcast. Go to onestepdeeperpodcast.com and you can see all the past episodes there, video and audio at the page. It's actually showing up on the llvlc.com page now as a subheading. I finally got them to put it on my main page. I'm like, guys, it's one of my main podcasts. Stick it on my page. So it's there now. I want to go just llvlc.com, but One Step Deeper Podcast.com also sent you there. We're also a video over on YouTube. We debut at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. I also try to put it up about the same time over on IGTV on Instagram as well as on our Facebook page. Just look up One Step Deeper on both of those formats. You will find the show. All of that is on Sundays. And then Mondays is when the official podcast airs, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, and what's the other one? Apple Podcast. Yes. The Apple fanboy forgot the Apple device. I'm sorry, Apple. I didn't mean to
say anything.
What else am I missing? Oh, yeah. Review. Go leave us a review. You did a good job, by the way, with Wildman a couple weeks ago, remembering like all this stuff. I was like, you go, girl. Because usually like you lean on me for all this, and you did well. I meant to tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I said thank you to a compliment. What? Who am I? What?
Yes. Those of you that don't know, she does not take compliments well. And you explained why, and we'll talk about that on another episode. But your past does not dictate your future, does not define who you are, where you're going. Like, I feel like today's episode is going to resonate so much because it is a hard topic, because it is something that people do let it define who they are and dictate their future. Let's just start right there, right at the raw moment of where people decide. Why do some people choose to just wallow in it versus those people like you and me who say, okay, well, that was some fucked up shit, but we did okay, not because of that, and not, well, you overcame, you turned out all right. I know you've had people tell you that, me too. Yeah. You turned out all right, so I guess it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. No, it was bad. It was still very, very bad. Don't point the finger at me that, well, I came out all right because of anything regarding that trauma. To this day, you and me both are still stifled by some of the things that happen because these things haunt you. Jimmy, 49 years old, still haunted by his past. Brittany, 28 years old, still haunted by some of the things that happen, not just the actual trauma. And sorry to talk so much, but you just got me fired up today with this one. Not so much just the trauma, but all the things that had to be put into place to cope with said trauma.
Oh, absolutely. And like, listen, I'm fired up too. I'm not stressed, but at the same time, I'm like, are we going to be able to keep this to our hour? Because I am fired up about this topic.
We'll go over if we need to.
So this morning you had posted something, and Jimmy has privately poked fun at me because I don't like or comment on anything. It's just not because I don't like it or doesn't vibe. It just like doesn't even cross my mind to like say anything.
Right.
And so this morning Jimmy posted something and I commented a long comment.
You commented but didn't like the post. I was like, oh shit.
Because I felt a certain way, because kind of the topic was, and you and I have, different opinions on this, and I'll get to like my new revelation just before the podcast soon. But I hate the thought that my past made me who I am, or made me stronger. That is something you won't hear out of my mouth. I think it's absolutely disgusting. People are like, well, your trauma made you stronger. No, my trauma broke the shit out of me. I fell apart. I was weak. I was broken. And here's where it is. Does it dictate my future? No and yes. What I mean is the bad, the rough, the raw, the moments that I have broken down. You and I have made the choice to be better in spite of, not because of, but in spite of what happened to us. But there it is. It's that, yes, it can dictate your future if you let it. But the trauma, the pain, the hurt, the past gives you the fork in the road. It gives you the choice. We're
actually on the same page here. I don't disagree with any of that. And parts of my story in my life that I don't share publicly. You are my best friend. So I tell things to you. A part of my life that because of the trauma in my teenage years, I made a choice that it seemed at the time was going to set me up for a nice future. And it just led to more trauma. And that trauma, like I'm hoping now at this point in my life, I'm kind of breaking some of that trauma, but it's like weird because it becomes generational trauma, not something that I pass down to the next generation, but in my own life, I haven't been able to get past certain things because the original trauma then sent me down another road of trauma, which then sent me down another road of trauma. And it's like, I got to break that cycle in my own life. And that's why people they can't let go of the past because that happened in teenage years. Now here I am, and this, and then this, and then this. Woe is me. Nothing's ever working. I'm never going to amount to anything. I might as well cry.
Exactly, because past patterns and things that we see in our life, that we observe in our life, just become part of us. And that's why when we say, your past does not dictate your future, or does it, is people let it. People let the things that happen to them become this pattern that just gets repeated and repeated and repeated. And it takes people like I feel like you are, and even me, where I take my past and I step outside of it for a moment. Like I like to observe things with as little judgment as possible. Like, so I kind of step out of it and view the situation from the outside as if I am not the person going through it. And I say, okay, what in this can I learn from it? And what in this can I change? And so all of the trauma that was put on me, I looked in and I said, you know what? Because of the way my parents treated me, the fuck if I'm gonna treat my kids this way. I will not. And so my past did dictate my future, but not in the way that you think it would. It changed me because I was like, I will absolutely never treat a human being the way that I was treated. And it made me switch. It made me, in that fork in the road, I could choose to go the same path that my parents did, or that the people around me did, or I could take a stark turn. And if anybody in real life knows me, if it's the norm, Brittany usually does the opposite, because I'm just like, if it's normal, then there's probably something there that people are just traveling this path that people have paved before them, and they're not climbing the mountain to get to the top.
You are the queen of countercultures.
You're welcome.
And you've rubbed off on me with that a little bit because, and even in the nutritional health space where I live, like everything about keto is counterculture when it comes to nutrition. And so I've already been there a little bit, but then you've kind of on even other beliefs and things that I have, that my past dictated how I thought about things. Because in my past, I was told certain things about certain issues, and I have belief systems set up. And then once I started like peeling back the layers of those belief systems, I go, I don't know if I believe all of those things. And then when I started doing the evaluation, I know you threw everything out a few years back, and we'll get into that here in a second, how that kind of plays into this as well. I just feel like if you're not learning the lessons of your past, you're going to keep dwelling on the past. You have to learn the lessons of what happened. And it's sometimes hard lessons. And it's a lot of times lessons that were thrust upon you. In our case, with the trauma, we didn't ask for that. I never asked to have the shit beat out of me, my head thrown into walls, being told I was a pussy, that no girl will ever want to be with me, that I might as well go to reform school because I'm a bad kid, even though I was an honor roll student. I had all these horrendous things said about me. You had trauma along the same lines being said about you, and the physical, sexual abuse that happened to you. You could sit there and go, well, all of that was fed into me, I'm going to just carte blanche, believe it all. And then where do you go? You're living someone else's life. But what you and I both have done, you were a year ahead of me, but what you and I both have done is said, yeah, fuck that shit. I'm going to be, in your case, I'm going to be Brittany, and I'm becoming Brittany Lee, and da-da-da. You talked about that very often in your work. And I'm Jimmy, and this version of Jimmy, some people don't like him. And I'm like, okay, it's me though. Like, you've seen the polished version of Jimmy. You've seen the version that I felt like I was supposed to be based on, sorry, again, I'm hogging the microphone, but I have so much to say about this one. You're right, a little longer than an hour, but I feel like if you're not doing this work, you guys, where you're really evaluating your past and how it is impacting you, I think people so live in what has happened, and they never can live to what is going to happen if they just simply start living their life now.
My absolute favorite, I've even quoted it on the one episode before, my absolute favorite mindset shift thing that has just gut punched me and made me go, you know what? That's amazing. And I repeat it over and over again, is when Will Smith was in a gym. He was sitting in a gym and he was telling people that he was recalling this story of him talking with a friend, and they were differentiating between fault and responsibility. It fucking wasn't your or my fault what we went through, but it damn sure was our responsibility to take what happened to us and never repeat it again, and to learn the lessons from it and grow from it and be a better human being from that, not because of. I will never, sorry, I will never give any ounce of credit to my mom's ex-husband.
Why are you sorry to me? You know I believe that.
Just and clarify, my mom's ex-husband was my stepdad. I actually had somebody come back and ask about my biological father. No, this was my stepdad at the time that did this to me. I will never.
As your biological father has his own faults, but he never did that to you. So
No, I love my biological father. He's in my life. So
yeah.
But what happened, he will never get an ounce of credit for who I am. And I am who I am in spite of him, not because of.
And nor should he, Brittany. Like, I feel like there's so much around this topic of when you've been through stuff and you dwell on your past, and think everybody, just be honest with yourselves, guys. If you're watching this right now, you're listening on the podcast, you've had stuff happen. Now, if you haven't, God bless you. You're the rarity. I think most of us, maybe not to the extreme of sexual abuse or physically beaten, but I think the vast majority of people have been belittled, either by parents, by brother or sister, by spouse, by friends, by coworkers. You've had experience where people have tried to define you, have tried to dictate to you how your life is, and you've believed them. And because of that, that's now impacting your ability to move forward in a future. And people get so stuck right here, Brittany, because they go, well, my life's not going anywhere. I just don't know why. And you kind of peel back the layers, like, which is what we do here on One Step Deeper. You peel back the layers and you kind of go, well, no wonder this, and this was said to you, and you've just never let it go.
Speaking of, I have a very just burned in my brain. I was like 8 or 9. And so the fact that I can recall this tells you how much it was burned in my brain about something that I believed about myself. God, Jimmy, probably to this day, and I still have to work on this, and thank goodness I am in therapy. I probably will talk to my therapist about this very story coming up. So I was about 8 or 9, and we used to go to something as a family called the kitchen, which was basically just this building that looked like a kitchen and had a bathroom. And my family would get together every Sunday after church, and there was a house. And so me and my cousins were in the house. I was chunkier at the time, and my cousins, there were multiple of us, said, why don't you go in and get us a plate of desserts and we'll all share it. So I had a couple of cookies, a couple of brownies, a couple of pieces of cake, but I was going to share it with my cousins. Well, I walked by and an older lady was like, and that right there is exactly why you're fat. And literally, like, I struggle with that because somebody told me at an impressionable age that I was fat, even though I really wasn't. Like, looking back, somebody told me that I was fat because of what I was eating, and that just burned in my brain. And literally, I remember like starting a diet at 8 or 9 years old because an adult told me that I was fat. Because when an adult tells you something when you're a child, that just, so all the things that your dad told to you, like, you just internalize that. And that's why it's so important to, like, your past does not dictate your future. Guys, you got to set your children up for a good future, because however you talk to them, that's what they're going to hear in their brain. That's what Jimmy and I have done, going down this path of peeling back the layers. And we're like, okay, this thing that we believe about ourselves, where the fuck did it come from? And when you finally realize, oh yeah, that's not my words, that's this person's words. And then you have to unlearn those person's words that were told to you all those times.
Real Good Foods is one of the fastest growing frozen food companies in the U.S. Everything they make is nutrient dense, high in protein, low in carbs, and made from real food ingredients. Instead of using processed flours, everything they make is 100% grain-free and gluten-free, which is how they keep their carbs so low. They can be found at Costco, Walmart, Target, Kroger, and in almost every grocery store nationwide. Or you can order online. Check us out today at realgoodfoods.com and at realgoodfoods on social media.
And the problem is, though, that those words that are told to you are your experience. And so therefore you believe them because there's nothing countering them. And so we forget things that are abnormal. I thought everybody's kids got their head thrown into walls. Mm-hmm. I thought everybody that was a boy was told, no girl will ever want you. You're just a faggot. Just get out of my face and die already. Yeah. Like, I thought everybody went through that until I didn't.
Yeah.
And then when I learned that other people, it hit me in the 12th grade. I was almost out of the house. And I remember I identified with a lot of 11th graders because I was actually a year younger in my class. So I was their age. And I remember seeing some of these kids that were like really the smart kids in their class. And it was report card day. This story just popped in my head. And I remember leaving school, getting ready to go in my car. And this one kid was being picked up by his parents. And because he got all A's on his report cards, they gave him $500. And he was sitting there like showing it off to all his friends and sticking his tongue out and all excited. And I'm like, wait, there's not ambivalence that you got all A's? Like, what, wait, there's parents that actually pay you to get good grades? Like, you and me, that's a foreign concept because we had cheap ass parents that didn't give us anything, and they berated us for having a 97 and not having.
I was about to say, like, that just hits home, man. You know how much that one hits home.
Yeah.
So not only was it,
I never got anything for doing well, except you're a bad kid. You need to go to reform school, and I don't care how many honor rolls you're on, you're still a piece of shit. Like, that was my first kind of inkling that something was wrong with the way I was being reared. And of course, people watching us might be like, well, of course you should have known that you were being beaten. That wasn't right. I think
if it's all you know.
On a little bit of a level, I did know it was wrong, but it still was normal. And of course, it was the 1980s. It was a lot more accepted in the 80s than it is today.
We've talked about this concept, though, and this is another thing, like how your past actually can dictate your future if you let it, is people that are raised in chaos. Chaos is their normal. Like, I say this all the time. And so they will, like, engineer chaos in their life because that's what feels normal for them. So they have chaotic relationships, things like that just become a pattern in their life because that is what is normal. And so, like, no, you don't see it. Even when I was being groomed into that process of being sexually molested, like, I didn't see it. I was like, this doesn't feel right, but maybe I don't, and I remember just questioning myself and never having the background information. Like, sex was a taboo thing. Like, we never talked about it. We don't talk about touching hands, holding hands, kissing boys. We never talked about anything like that in my family. It was just taboo, no. And so instead of being open about it and going, hey, there is this way and this is inappropriate, there was never that line. And so I never knew, at 12, all I knew was this is bad. And so if something was happening to me, it made me feel bad about it. And so, but it just, it wasn't that it was normal, that I believed it was normal. It's just, how do you speak out against something that you don't know any different about? So same thing with you. I mean, yeah, sure. Didn't feel good to have your, what happened to you. But it's just like, it was your normal. So why were you going to say anything about it? Why was it going to be any different? Because that was your normal. But, I encourage, when those things happen, you get stuck there. You do. You just get stuck there and you can't move on. Like that thing that still plays in my head when I'm 8 or 9. The words that still play in your head vividly, those moments that you picture, they get stuck in your head. And then it's like record player. Like, I know I'm young, but I know I have a record player. It's just like when it gets stuck and it's just this, you can't get over that. And it's at that point you have to take that very moment, peel back the layers and go to that very moment, unlearn and relearn and reteach yourself, hey, I am worthy. I am not all of these things that were told to me. I am worthy of better and change, and I can be better. And not only can I be better in myself, but I will never say these things to other people because I know how that made me feel.
And like we mentioned in last week's episode about narcissism and gaslighting, that gaslighting is a bitch, and it will keep you stuck in the past. And I just, this is making me like recollect all these things from the past because they're still vivid in there, like that 8-year-old you being told you're fat. And trust me, I had a lot of those kinds of things said to me too. Well, don't pile your plate up. Of course, Southern Baptist culture, you go to the potluck and you pile up food, and you know it's all there, and have all you want, but don't have too much, but have all you want. And it's just, and I know you want to work on a little bit of the religious stuff as well, because this is related to, and it's related to a lot of my trauma, because there were things that I learned in the midst of my initial getting beat trauma that were literally beaten into me mentally regarding religion's role in my life that kept me stuck in the past with some magical future that was supposed to be good. And it wasn't until I got out of the situation and realized that was no good for me at any point. But I was so blinders on with all the beliefs that it's only this way, that when the blinders went down, I started looking around and went, shit, there went half my life.
Yeah, so, and when we were talking about this before, I was going to be really cautious to not make this heavily a religious thing, but I can't. This very topic right here, your past does not dictate your future. This was one of the This was one of the very first starts to my throwing everything out. When everybody told me, you have to take what happened to you as a child and you have to make it better, and you have to understand it made you strong, it made you who you were, and God wouldn't give you anything more than you could handle. And I basically was being gaslit instead of saying, wow, that's really hard. I'm so sorry you have yet another thing in your life to battle to get to that point. It was never that. It was always, oh, well. And I just couldn't. I couldn't believe that this was what was destined for my life, that I had to go through this to be who I was. I think I'm a good person. I think I was a strong person before any of this happened to me. I think, let's go back a couple episodes, I think this was the plate of shit with whipped cream handed on me, or basically was the plate of shit handed to me, and all the other religious people was like, here's your whipped cream to pretend like this isn't a pile of shit that's handed to you, but you got to deal with that. And that wasn't okay with me. And I had to start going down that path and really just picking up the pieces and just throw it all out and go, okay, I'll take this and I'll take this and I'll piece together this becoming Brittany Lee that I have done. I don't believe that. I do believe that my past was handed to me and I got a choice. Am I going to repeat this pattern? Am I going to be this person because somebody was this person to me? Or am I going to grow from this and learn how not to be to other people?
Let's dig into those people who make those comments about, well, you turned out okay, or wow, you need to use this for good moving forward, because I think in their minds, it doesn't come across the way it does to you and me. And so I feel like they're well-intentioned. That doesn't excuse it just because it's well-intentioned. There's a lot of well-intentioned nonsense that needs to be corrected. But let's dig into that one a little bit, because I want to poke at that scab. That's what we do on One Step Deeper. And why do people feel? Is it to try to make you feel better? Is it to try to ignore what did happen so you don't have to face those people don't have to face the reality of what happened? Like, there's many people that went through some stuff that decades later still hasn't Ben, acknowledge, like at 12, you had this horrible thing happen to you. I know other people in my life that were molested a lot younger than that.
Right.
Parents pretty much just swept it under the rug, didn't happen, forget about it. And now, decades later, all this swirling in their head, and they can't figure out why they don't have a better future.
Yeah. While you were saying that, like, all I could picture was my TikTok recently where I'm like, I'm not in the mood for this.
I'm not in the motherfucking mood. Motherfucking mood. Motherfucking mood. I'm not in the motherfucking mood for this bullshit today.
Yes, I'm like,
You can say motherfucking mood.
if you do not follow me on TikTok, it is also becoming Brittany Lee on TikTok. And I made this TikTok recently where I'm singing, and the caption was that, I'm not dealing with people telling me that ADHD isn't real, but like it applies to this topic too, which is why I posted it.
So,
Because, go ahead.
So you got me on TikTok because of that video. I did a duet with that one.
I'm not in the motherfucking mood. Motherfucking mood. Motherfucking mood. I'm not in the motherfucking mood for this bullshit today.
I'm Jimmy More Keto on TikTok if you want to follow me. But yeah, when you did that one, I had to kind of have fun with it. But it was brilliantly done. But I've never heard or seen that side of you before.
Oh, I was mad. I was just like, I was mad. I was covering my teeth.
I could tell. I was scared. I was staring at you going, I don't know about this, Britt.
But like, that's how fired up I get when people don't validate what people go through. I'm just like singing in my head, I'm not in the mood for this today. Not in the mood, just not.
This bullshit today, right?
No, not in the mood for this. But yeah, let's dive into that. So, and I think we've kind of covered this before. I think a lot of it is people are uncomfortable in themselves when they don't have the answers, because we're told we always have to have the answers, and that I'm sorry you went through that is not good enough.
Well, why don't they go immediately to compassion and sympathy? Like if you've never been through that, you can't empathize, but you can definitely sympathize. You can show a little bit of kindness of your heart and compassion. It seems to me that would be the default. But no, the default is, well, you'll overcome it. Jesus will strengthen you to overcome it. And even if you're not religious, well, you're positive thinking, the power of positivity, and we talked about this before in a previous episode, will overcome it. Why do we always have to make it better?
I know we had Wildman on 2 episodes ago now, but him and I do something that's been so important to our relationship, and I even do this with you very early on in our friendship, where I'm like, I don't need you to fix my problem, I just need you to listen. And so if it's someone that I actually will open up to about anything that I went through, I will say to them, okay, I need a solution to this problem, or I just need you to listen to this. And I think as a society, we could do better at that. Go ahead.
You've actually done that to me. I don't usually tell you if I want your opinion or not, but you always go, okay, Jimmy, do you want me to just listen? Or do you want Jimmy to give you some wisdom about this? And more times than not, I'm like, tell me. Like, I wouldn't be talking to you about it if I didn't want to hear your thoughts. Very rarely do I say, oh, no, I just want you to listen. No, I actually want to hear some thoughts. Whereas you kind of are 50-50. Sometimes it's, I want to hear your thoughts. And sometimes you're like, all right, I'm just going to talk today. And I'm like, all right, let me hear you. And usually when you're talking and you don't want to hear me, you're more intense, you're more emotional. And I know in those moments, I just listen and back off. And then if you kind of go, so what do you think? I'm like, oh, you want to hear me now? Yeah. And so usually you kind of warm up to me once it's all out. You just needed a sounding board.
Yeah. But as a society, it would do a lot better because, and I will say, when people talk to me about their things that they're going to, I know this now, but 5 years ago, Brittany, I would always feel like you're telling me something, I got to fix it. I need to do something to fix it. And so when we don't have the answers, that's when we tend to throw those like gaslighting, unintentional gaslighting statements like, oh, it'll be all right. Everything will work out for the best, and I've actually called my grandma out on that recently after we talked about it on the podcast. I was like, okay, grandma, I need to talk to you about something that you say, and I know it's a habit, but like I would really appreciate it if you didn't say that to me, because it kind of sucks when you say this. And she's like, you know what? I see what you're saying. She's like, I can't promise it's going to be an overnight change. I've always said that, but.
Oh, this is where she says, I just feel like everything's going to work out for the best. That's the saying, right? I just want to tell you didn't say that. And I was like,
sorry.
We did that like 5 episodes ago. And yeah. And sweet grandmas, but that's cool that you felt comfortable enough in your relationship with her to tell her that. And then cool that she's like, I probably will still do it, sweetie, but I'll try to be better. That's cool though.
She fits into that category of those people who mean well, who when you tell them something hard, they always feel like they have to have an answer to like help you. And I think it doesn't help that she's grandma and I'm granddaughter, and I usually go to her for advice. And so I've been more cautious with her too of, hey grandma, can you just listen to me, and maybe give me some advice, or, I'm more open with her about, and it's not demanding. Like we have to be open about what we want and what we desire. And even with our children, I mean, that goes back. Some of these podcasts just kind of tie into each other there, because when you go one step deeper, at some point you're at the core. Okay.
Look, when you dig into the ground, you're going to see the same roots from time to time.
Yes.
But then you dig deep enough, you go, oh, wow. Oh, okay. We've got some sunken treasure here. We're going to explore this little box.
Right. And that's what I was doing earlier when I was exploring this, because you can tell that I have a visceral reaction when people tell me, oh, your past, it doesn't dictate your future. And, it's just such this reaction that I have inside of me when people tell me to take what happened to me and it's a benefit in my life.
Keto Chow is a customizable shake mix that is also perfect for cooking and baking, giving you simple, nutritionally perfect meal options. Keto Chow. Make keto easy. Discover your favorite flavor at jimmylovesketochow.com.
So let's get to the or does it part. I want to kind of hang out there a bit, because yes, things happen to us in our past, and yes, we can overcome, we can become resilient, we can be stronger, not because of the trauma, but in spite of the trauma, all that I think we've articulated quite clearly. But what about the or does it? Like, are there certain parts of you that you don't think fully overcomes the past? And is it simply honoring that thing that happened to you? And then some people kind of get stuck in the honoring of that thing, or they even go, well, I was a sexual abuse victim. And so they identify, in your case, that way. I was physically beaten victim. So then I've never, by the way, ever identified as somebody that was a beat kid. I just don't. I talk about my childhood trauma. I say it happened, but I am not a beat kid. Yeah, fuck that. JD does not get that privilege of knowing he did that to me and that it impacted me all the years later. Well, but or does it means those things linger. Is that what you mean by the or does it?
Yeah, it's so like the title being, your past doesn't dictate your future. And that is a great concept of, don't let what happened to you dictate who you are. But the or does it part for me is what we go through does change us. Even though I don't want to admit that, okay? I don't want to give any credit to anything that I went through that somebody put me through. I'm not giving credit to the person. I'm giving credit to myself, because every time that we're met with something hard, we always get a choice. We can choose how we react to the situation. And so our past does dictate our future, only in it gives us an option and a choice. It doesn't dictate our destiny. We do. We're presented with this thing, go this way or this way. And so in a way, what happens to us does shape us. I think about Kevin Hart, one of my favorite comedians. He's really funny and he's really relatable for me. But more recently, I love when he talks inspiration. Same thing with Will Smith. Or Matthew McConaughey. I love when these actors start talking about their childhood and how they came to be the person that they are. I've read Matthew McConaughey's book talking about his childhood and what led him to where he was. He had horrible parents who screamed and yelled and fought all the time, and that molded him, not because of what happened, but in spite of, he became this man, this very big success in spite of what happened to him. Kevin Hart too. His dad was absent from his life. He had a single mom who raised him and worked really hard. He lost his mom, and when he became successful, he started paying his dad's bills, and his dad is now a huge part of his life, and they have a better relationship now. But had that not happened to Kevin, he might not have had the push in his life to get where he is.
Well, and that's where I was getting at with my post that you had visceral reaction to. That was the point, was how could those things in your past not impact what's happening right now and thus your future? How could they not? Because you got to think about, if you're, and just even looking at the laws of physics, when something is in motion, it's going to keep staying in that same motion until something boing, pivots it. Then what happens? If a bullet, for example, is going at a straight line, which bullets do, unless it hits something, then it ricochets and it goes this direction. And I feel like these things that happen in our lives, trauma and really all kinds of things, is that ricochet of the bullet that moves us, shapes us into, like, I was headed right there. That was my direction right there. And then suddenly childhood trauma. Whoop. Okay, wow, what's this path? Oh, I never would have even thought of, whoop, okay, now this path. And it just, you're constantly being ebbed and flowed by the things that happen to you, and especially the things that traumatic happen to you. And it doesn't just have to be childhood, guys. There's a lot of trauma. Well, we should do a whole episode on kind of adulthood trauma. Because there's some shit in adulthood that leaves a lasting impact. And I've been through some of those things recently. And so no, of course you should change. Of course, those past events are going to dictate your future, because they did. They did. And it's like when we try to say, well, this is the course I was supposed to be on for a period of time. Yes. But then, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
And I've become more and more a believer in karma, both good and bad. When you do bad shit, it's going to come back and bite you in the pooey. And same thing, when you've been through some bad shit, I think you're rewarded. I think karma says, you know what? You've had some bad stuff happen to you. I have to believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of wasted years of my life was not in vain. And that was the crux of my post too, was I feel like I went through a lot, but it was for a bigger purpose than I even know, even right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's something that I've struggled with, because a lot of that mindset is tied religious for me,
Right.
and that's a struggle for me. I'm not gonna lie. You guys can watch the religious episode. We go all into depth of where that comes from.
2 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, the double and then longer episode.
Yeah.
Where we dive all into that. But like, that idea of, this was the great plan for your life, that's hard for me to accept, that something bigger than me decided my life and that it equaled this, because this sucks. Okay, I've been through some shit, and so I can't grasp that in my brain. I can, however, grasp that this thing did happen to me by chance, by someone being stupid, and I was handed the plate of shit. Now I have to do something with it. Like, I can accept that, and I can accept that I have worked my ass off to be the person that I am today in spite of. I have had so many things thrown my way that could have made me bitter and could have made me a horrible, I could be bitter with Brittany instead of bitter with Brittany. But I have maybe not in the beginning. I have some really dark moments, y'all. That's Jimmy. I have had some really dark moments in my life, even recently. I can go very dark. But it's in those moments that I almost can see the path of, okay, Brittany, are you going to keep walking this path and become the person that treated you like shit? Are you going to become that person? Because they chose all the wrong paths. They chose to be bitter. They chose to take their hurt and put it on other people. Are you going to take this hurt that you felt and transfer that to some other person so that you don't have to feel it? Or are you going to feel the fucking feels for yourself, go through the pain, go through the hurt, and never cause another human being to feel this way? And I always choose that way. Because when I get to the point where I'm lashing out at my family, or I'm not talking to my friends, and I shut myself off from everything, I have to ask myself that really hard question: is this the life you want? Because if this is the life you want, you can keep going down this path. That's your business. But you're going to be alone. You're going to push everybody away. And that's your choice. Brittany, I will respect your choice. But I always have to go, I want more for my life. I want better for my life. I have a vision, that you were just talking about. I believe in karma. I do too. And I'm still waiting for my karmic help.
You want your comeuppance.
Yes, can I have my dose? I'm ready. I've done all the good things. Can I have my dose?
It doesn't work that way. You kind of have to wait till it's the time. But
I'm ready to cash in.
What'd you say?
I'm ready to cash in.
Pushing in all my chips. Get me out of this casino already. Yes. Trust me. And I feel like we also, when we only focus on the past and let it define us and let it kind of lead us down a future that's going nowhere, we forget about the collateral damage around us. You've got a husband and 3 beautiful girls, and you've got people in your life, including myself, that all get impacted if you're dwelling on the past. They're all directly related. And I think we forget about those things as well, which should drive us to want to choose better, drive us to make those better choices. Now, in my life, it's me. So it's a little easier for me, although I do take you into account with some things I do, because you're my bestie, and that will always matter to me. It's a little harder for you because you got eyeballs watching mommy. Oh, wow, mommy's really sad today. Are you okay, mommy? And you talk very openly about how your oldest keeps you accountable, and she's 8, and she's watching you to know how to react, do you dwell on things? Do you make good choices now? And, and when they're age appropriate, they'll know all the things that happened to you, just not right now. It impacts them just as much as it does Brittany.
Yeah, it does. And, talking about the crossroad, and I actually wrote this down because I wanted to make sure, and just like I knew, we're getting at that moment where we're cutting down on time here, but getting to this crossroad idea. I hit a crossroad in 2020, before pandemic, all of that, where I was sitting in the hospital and I literally looked over to my husband as my body was dying. And I told him, I love you. Take care of our girls. I was checking out. I was done. I had nothing left. I was in so much pain. I couldn't see straight. I was at the crossroad and I was ready to give up. He was crying. I was crying. And universe, what have you, don't care. Label it what you will. My doctor walks in the door and he started talking to me, and he got really tough love because he had done the calm thing. He's like, I guess it's not working for you. And it never does. I need tough love. I'm a tough love person. I prefer it. And he's like, Brittany, you have to fight for your life. He said, I'm sorry you're in this. I'm sorry this happened to you. But if you want your life, you have to fight for it. And that's when I told him, I don't think I can. I don't think I have the energy. I don't. And he's like, what can we do? We have to get you out of this bed. We have to keep you going. We have whatever we can do to keep. It's the biggest crossroad that I've ever gone through, that I was ready to give up and check out of life, not just check out of the day. I was ready to check out of life. And I had to pick up every ounce of anything left that I had to keep going. And there's been so many times that the pain sets in from the scars and all of that stuff, where I have to go, all right, Brittany, here's your crossroad. What are you going to do? You're going to lay here today? You're going to lay here? You're going to give up? Or are you going to keep going? I had a moment earlier today. I called my husband. He's like, I can't call. You got to text me. And I was just like, books, texting him. I can't do this. I can't work all of these hours with podcasting and all the things that I'm doing that I love to do, and unschool and take care of kids and be a wife and all this stuff and all this stuff. And he's like, here's your crossroad, Brittany. What are you going to do? It's tough love, but it's the same thing. I have to pick all that up. I can sit here, I can wallow, or I can let my freaking past be my fuel. I can let the hospital and the sexual trauma and the parental problems and the lack of money and the everything, I can list it all. I can look at it and I can let it defeat me, or I can look at it as fuel and fuel every future decision that I ever make. And I can use it for that thing that you and I are working on as fuel. I can use it for this podcast and use it for fuel to help other people. I can use it to motivate other people or motivate myself. I can use it.
You know what? I'm just going to tell them what we're working on. We're not
Go
going to
ahead.
details. We're writing a book together because we've done this podcast. We live and breathe this stuff, you guys. So we've got a very special book we're working on together. The big debut. You didn't even know I was going to say this today. The big debut is coming. Hopefully, we're trying to aim for late this year, if not definitely early in 2022, 2022. The years have run together.
Yes.
But yeah, in fact, we've been working on it a lot recently with you kind of coming back and getting back very active. And, don't let it overwhelm you, though, by the way. If it's part of don't let that book do it. I got you on that one. But so stay tuned, guys. Just wanted to throw that out there. You're right. Like, so much of this we could allow to overwhelm us if we kind of dwell on all those past things. But I think what we've articulated here in episode 31 is you don't have to stay in the past. And yet people do. They stay comfortable in the past. Comfortable, I say, right, because it's familiar. It's why beat women stay in abusive relationships. It's comfortable in the knowing. In the knowing of the harm, which is so fucked up, ironic. They know they're being harmed, but they want to stay. And it's why people stay in bad marriages. It's why people stay in bad relationships. It's why people don't take action, because the action is an unknown that could make their future brighter and better. But they want to stay stuck in the past because at least this is suckiness that I know, rather than unknown potential suckiness, but also potential amazingness. I'm in the point in my life where I have no guarantees of anything of what's to come, but I have potential amazingness that awaits. And that's what gets me up in the morning. And that's what motivates me to go, hey, you're going to be all right.
Yeah. And I'm the kind of person that I'm not like, I'm never looking back. I'm going to visit, I'm going to visit my past, not to bring myself down. What?
How can you not visit the past?
Right.
It does define you, or does it? It does define parts of your life. I've got a movie in my head. Dan Tito makes my brain work like a million miles an hour. I have vivid thoughts and movies that play in my head all the time of the abuse. Now, I have a visceral reaction to it, but I see it every day.
Well, the things that I go through, like when I visit that now, I always look at it through a different lens of when I visit here, this is my fuel. I went through this. Look at what I went through, and I used to tell this when I used to be a coach, and I would coach both diet and mindset at the same time. One of the activities that I would have my clients do was, I want you to get out a piece of paper and write down everything you've ever overcome. I'm talking small. I'm talking like going for a walk when you wanted to sit down, like every tiny little moment that you have overcome, right? The big stuff, right? The small stuff. I have a running list that I keep in my office, and it's probably a mile long at this point. Of every time I overcome something, I will write it down, because when I'm at my lowest and I feel like, who the fuck am I and what am I doing in this life? And I'm just this, and this, and I hear all those thoughts come back up and I'm revisiting my past. I will revisit my past. I will revisit my list and go, oh, girl, look at this. Look at all this stuff you have gone through. Use it as fuel.
We need to have you bring that on camera one of these days. We can actually take a look at and have you read some of the entries. That would be kind of fun to.
Yeah.
I remember when you told me you had that, I was like, no way. Well, I've been to your house a few times. I've never seen that. I want to see that next time I visit you, by the way. So,
okay.
It'll be cool. Yeah. And my brain works so well. I just remember those things. And I do have to, I do remind myself. I know you're a write it down kind of girl, and I'm going to remember kind of guy. Just, yeah. But that's right. But man, yeah, it's tough today, but I think it was good because we both brought a lot of passion to our talking today. And I hope you guys felt that here today in episode 31. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up on this topic before we get out of here?
No, I think this was good. As always, I will say, I say this every week on Better with Brittany. I say it often on my posts. Guys, if you ever need to talk to somebody, like really, I really am always available to talk to anybody over on Instagram. That's where you can probably reach me the easiest. I'm always open for DMs of just chatting with anybody. If you're having a hard day, if you feel like your past is controlling you, like I'm just here to listen. I love to do that. So you can find me at Instagram at becoming.brittanylee. But yeah, that's about it.
Also on TikTok, becoming.brittanylee. And I'm Living Low Carb Man over on Instagram. People are always shocked because I have a little bit of online fame. And so people are like, oh my God, Jimmy Moore answered me. I'm like, I'm still a human. I will talk to people in a message. And so you can write me there as well in a DM, as well as over on TikTok. I'm Jimmy Moore Keto over there. We're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of ADHD videos on TikTok, and I'm doing like duet response videos to people that hate keto. So we find our niche into it. All right, close the show.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. I love y'all so much. Thank you for all the followers here. All right. One Step Deeper Podcast.com. You can find all the episodes there. Instagram, One Step Deeper Podcast. Facebook, One Step Deeper Podcast Community. The episodes air every Sunday, almost on Wednesday, every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. That's the video where you can find the video. Videos are up on OneStepDeeperPodcast.com as well. And then videos are also up on Instagram and Facebook. If you want the audio version, you want to listen in your car while you're driving down the road to your job, get a little personal development in, you can check it out on Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, my favorite, ALEXA. You can check it out there as well. What am I missing, Jimmy? I went 100 miles an hour.
And then
Yes, leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We love hearing from you guys. My brain is running 100 miles an hour right now.
All right. Look, we took a whole month off in the month of June, and we're still kind of getting back in this, but I hope you're feeling a different Jimmy and Brittany, because we're past 30 episodes now.
Yes.
We've reached that point where we're ready to take it a step up, and you're going to notice it in our book, by the way, when it comes out. We're going to start off a little bit, kind of like the first 30 episodes, one step deeper, and then we're just going to kind of go in a little bit deeper as the book progresses, and same with this podcast. So thank you guys for sticking around. We really appreciate you. And Brittany, we'll see you next week.
All right, see you.
One Step Deeper Podcast.com.
Tried the Paleo Valley beef sticks. These beef sticks are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, and many of the grass-fed beef sticks on the market today are actually finished with grains. They use beef sourced from small domestic farms in the United States. They only use real organic spices to flavor the beef sticks versus all the conventional spices sprayed with pesticides and other natural flavors from GMO. They also ferment the sticks, which creates naturally occurring probiotics, all great for your gut health. and best of all, they taste amazing. Again, they're Paleo Valley, my favorite beef stick on the market today. Go check them out, you guys. PaleoValley.com. Use the coupon code Jimmy at checkout for 15% off your first order. Paleo Valley beef sticks.